Hi everybody, Dr. Emily here from the Evidence-Based Fitness Academy. Welcome to my office. I want to take a few minutes today to teach you about the differences between the different types of footwear. Now you may get a lot of questions from your clients and your patients regarding what is the most appropriate footwear. I'm going to give you a few quick tips on how you can differentiate the difference between traditional shoes versus transitional shoes and those that are truly zero drop. This will help you better guide your clients, athletes, and patients so that they can improve their function and performance. So I have 3 shoes here. All of them are going to be slightly different. 3 things that you want to look for in footwear is first is what's called the midsole. Second, what is called the heel-toe drop. And third, the cushion. So here is a traditional shoe. This is often associated with running and different athletic movements that might be multi-directional. Yes, it has the air technology, which gives it a little bit of a drop. But what we're looking for in this shoe is going to be the midsole. Now, if you take a traditional shoe and you flex it, it's flexing at the lever of the foot. This is essentially like the knuckle of the foot, and that's where your transition is going in the sagittal plane. So what is creating that lever in the shoe is the midsole. So underneath here, there's a hard plastic midsole, which is forcing you to fall over or across that lever. Now, if we look at some of the other shoes, this would fall under what's called transitional, and this is a more minimal shoe. This, if we look at it, it looks very similar to the traditional shoe, and at first sight, you may think that it has a midsole within this shoe. But what you want to do is actually flex the shoe harder. Get down right below the heel and flex that shoe. If you can flex it like this, it does not have a midsole, which means the lack of that midsole means that you have to use the muscles to control the foot. It allows for more dynamic movement, but it also requires to have a little bit more foot strength. This shoe, of course, we have no midsole within this. You can tell just by looking at it. Okay. Second thing that you want to look at is the heel-toe drop. So heel-toe drop here in a traditional shoe, we can see that there's that slight slant off. A average traditional shoe heel-toe drop is 12 to 14 millimeters. Now that's approximately half of an inch. What that heel-toe drop does is it takes the tension off of the Achilles tendon, which is important to note. It also puts the ankle in a slight plantar flexed position. When your ankle is in a plantar flexed position, what it does is it inverts the subtalar joint, making the foot more rigid or more stable. So if you have a client or an athlete who has a slight everted / flat foot and you want to pull them into a more neutral position, that would be the benefit of a heel-toe drop. If you use a heel-toe drop during certain movements such as powerlifting, Olympic lifting, CrossFit, what it does is it allows you to bypass the ankle, get a little bit deeper into your squats, and it also throws you towards the direction of higher glute activation. Okay, if we look at this one, this would fall under the transitional heel-toe drop. A transitional heel-toe drop is between 4 and 8 millimeters. So you still have a drop off. It's not completely flat and level to the ground. It would have that 4 to 8 millimeter heel-toe drop. This is good for the client or the athlete who maybe has a history of plantar fasciitis, history of Achilles tendonitis, so it's still going to take a little bit of tension off of the Achilles tendon, which is what we want. It might be good for somebody that has a very rigid foot. Certain supinated feet are structurally very tight in the ankles, so this gives them a little bit more mobility. Or for the flat foot or the everted foot, because again, that heel-toe drop is going to pull them a little bit more into a neutral position. So transitional shoe is probably one of the most common ones that I recommend, shifting somebody out of a traditional shoe, but that transitional is very important. This would be similar to like a Nike Free 5.0 or 4.0. Okay, last one here. This would fall a little bit more towards the direction of a zero drop. So if you ever heard of that term, zero drop, what a zero drop shoe is it is between 0 and 3 millimeters. So that is what that heel-toe drop is. This obviously is going to place a lot more tension on that Achilles tendon. It requires a lot more natural or innate ankle flexibility, but it also gives you a lot more natural environment through which you need to move. gives you the freedom of movement, but it also requires you to have control and flexibility within the foot. Okay, last feature that you want to look at is the cushion. Cushion here, traditional shoes typically have a lot of cushion. The reason why they have cushion, and this one's going to be a little bit different because it has the air technology, but think of this as all of the cushion. What that cushion does is that it starts to damp and block the perception of the vibrations and the impact forces coming in. We don't want the shoe to take in the impact forces. We need to train our body to take in the impact forces. So the more cushion that you have in shoes, you create a barrier, which is then going to further block your perception of impact forces. In this shoe, again, you can see that it has a little bit more cushion, so you want to look at that feature. Not every minimal / transitional shoe is going to have the same degree of cushion. So the more cushion you have in the shoe, the more skewed perception of the ground. This has even less cushion, so this would be following more that true minimal environment. Studies have shown that the more cushion you have in shoes, the harder you strike the ground because you are blocking your perception. So again, in summary, we want to think about midsole stiffness in that traditional shoe that's requiring you to flex over the lever arm of the foot. It gives the foot a little bit more support. The second feature that you want to look at is the heel-toe drop. Understand the difference between a traditional, which is around 12 to 14 millimeters, transitional, 4 to 8 millimeters, and zero drop, which is 0 to 3 millimeters. And then finally, you want to look at cushion. The more cushion that you have in the shoes, the more skewed your perception of the impact forces and the ground that you're moving on will be. The more minimal or less cushion, obviously, the more better that is, the more barefoot that is, and you have a more accurate perception of the ground on which you are moving. I hope this helps and guides you towards some better footwear decisions. And remember, as always, stay barefoot strong.